Evening, I'm Dylan Smith. Those stories are on the way, but first, a storm-filled evening in the tri-states. Several communities are feeling the effects.
Going to kind of go rapid fire on you. Shelby, Monroe, Madison, Paris, and Center, all saying yes.
It's a building you likely see when you're on your way south out of Quincy, and what's still a work in progress on the inside promises for a bright future. No one has been charged in this homicide investigation. The victim, Cheyenne Decker, would have turned 24 this past Saturday. Both the police and her family are imploring anyone who knows anything to come forward. Frustration, anger, and sadness best describe the feelings of those that were in attendance at the special meeting today on campus. But one big question still remains, and that is, how many will be laid off?
First, breaking news out of Quincy tonight. Police say one man was shot and two others are in custody after a shooting outside of TJ Maxx and Petco on the far east side of town. Police say the shooting happened just before 2:30 this afternoon. That's when a disagreement that started inside of TJ Maxx translated into the shooting outside. They say this was a targeted shooting, not an active shooter situation. One victim was taken to Blessing Hospital, but police couldn't give the status of his injuries. One witness says she was just leaving Petco when a man was running towards her, so she sidestepped, went to her car, and then heard the shots.
Right here's a map of the whereabouts of Chadwick Kelly, leading all the way up to the standoff in LaBelle, Missouri, from the time he and his wife Brittany checked into a hotel in St. Charles to the time police say he checked out without her, and of course his eventual death. Police tell me Kelly wanted to kill as many officers as possible and then be killed by police, all to avoid going back to prison.
And it's my favorite picture ever.
Ask Christina Engel to pull out her phone and show you a picture of her children, and she can literally show you hundreds, if not thousands.
July 1st, 2018. That was when we were in the hospital.
It's hard to tell the difference. Strong man or superhuman? What seems like the impossible, Matt Sowers makes it look easy.
It takes a while to become a master at one single lift.
And if you didn't know, a theater organ is a little different than something you hear in church. World-renowned organist Richard Hills traveled all the way from London to debut the instrument.
What was your reaction whenever you received those calls, those texts, when you turned on the news and saw what happened just minutes after you left?
Thank God. We're lucky.
Type of technology being used at the Hancock County Courthouse that officials say is breaking down language barriers in the courtroom.
Call police, open the door. Huh?
Officers make their presence known at an apartment in the 900 block of North Charles, to be greeted with screams for help. And eventually finding 57-year-old Anthony George, later lunging into a nearby room, grabbing 4-year-old Terrell Miller. A single gunshot, killing them both in an instant.
Anthony was intoxicated, and things went left. Like he told me, if I can't have you, nobody can.
And that's exactly how Terrell's mother, Kiana Miller, remembers it.
No justice, no peace.
Now a call to action. Miller, along with about 50 others, rallied in March for policy reform within the Macomb Police Department.
They could have did anything besides use their weapon. They had tasers, they had pepper spray.
And policy is what Police Chief Jeff Hamer says he's looking into with an internal investigation. In a July 24th interview, Hamer called it his priority.
I feel I'm 80 to 90% of the way there.
Tell me how that was police procedure.
What was their reason?
They said in the report that he acted within the guidelines for the use of deadly force.
Miller's attorney Marlena Suarez saying Officer Nick Gock, who Hamer confirmed as the shooter, should have used de-escalation and negotiation tactics.
He was a bright young man. He never did nothing wrong. He didn't deserve to get killed by the police.
Suarez claiming the case is far from over and that a civil lawsuit will be filed by the end of next week.
It may be the only alternative open to us at this point.
And in the meantime, Miller hopes change will stem from Hamer's internal look. But she isn't holding her breath. She remembers her son, who would have turned 5 about 2 weeks ago, as a ball of sunshine who was everyone's best friend.
You had a bad day and you looked at him, hey, I'm Terrell. How are you doing? You know, he didn't have an enemy on this earth.
In Macomb, Dylan Smith, WGEM News.
Isn't this pretty?
It is.
This is why I do this, because it's so...
South Park is Quincy's taste of the outdoors. The perfect place to unwind throw the ball around. Kind of makes you forget you're in a town of 40,000 people.
Yeah.
And simply enjoy the fresh air.
It was like any other day coming here for a walk.
That's how Jared Welker still sees the park, exactly 1 year after being on death's front doorstep.
I've always lived in close to it too, so it's been convenient.
On March 17th, 2024, Welker came to South Park, like he did several days a week at the time, walking the same route as always, going down the hill from the playground, across the creek. At this point, you have no idea.
No idea.
And up the hill. But when he reached the top and looked back, he saw something he'd never seen before. 3 pit bulls that were reported missing earlier that day. Welker's instincts told him the dogs were going to attack him, so he made a run for it.
I'm on the ground and all my clothes are getting torn into.
Welker managed to get up and run back down the hill with the dogs snipping along the way.
Just to be honest, there really wasn't there was no break.
He fell going back across the creek, eventually reaching the grass on the other side. But at that point, Welker tells me he gave up, screaming for help. A nearby resident called 911. When police found Welker, the 3 dogs were circling him.
You were eaten by dogs? Can you move? No. No? Are they your dogs? No.
And Welker was fighting for his life. The 36-year-old spent nearly a week at Blessing Hospital.
He was intubated at that point, so he was all just black and blue and swollen. And
Welker's friend David Camphouse saw on social media that someone was attacked at South Park, but didn't know who it was until a few days after.
I actually screenshotted it and sent it to him, and I said, it's a good thing you didn't go walking in South Park.
Welker was partially scalped, had a hematoma in his neck, rhabdomyolysis, and part of his ear was bitten off. Welker says he got out of intensive care at Blessing once his airway had recovered enough to have the ventilator taken out. He was left with a few months of physical therapy, plus his body was swollen and blue for a few weeks. His body still has scars that'll last him the rest of his life. From the start, Camphouse says Welker had a good attitude and believes that went a long way in his friend's recovery. The now 37-year-old still has the clothes he was wearing that day.
So all these stains are blood.
He says digging into the past time after time has helped the healing process.
So, yeah, that'd be my hair.
Everything from the torn t-shirt to the shredded underwear. Welker says he wouldn't trade the experience for anything. How has this changed your life? Has it given you any kind of new outlook, perspective, or does it feel like a second chance? Or how has it changed your life?
Yeah, it's helped reshape my perspective on my life and the people's around me, and just how I view my life. It's just more precious now, mine and everyone else around me.
Welker still visits South Park and doesn't shy away from the chance to take his 2 sons.
Hello.
Not living in fear.
That's not how I live my life.
You know, yeah, a lot of people would maybe feel sorry for themselves after this had happened, but he really has taken this near-death experience, and he's got, I think, a stronger relationship with like his brothers, his family, his friends, and just doesn't take things for granted.